Meanwhile, more than a dozen people now facing federal charges in Wednesday's riots, including a man with Georgia ties. And that is where our continuing coverage begins tonight. We are learning more about the Georgia man who has been identified as Cleveland Meredith Jr. An 11 Alive investigation shows Meredith has Metro Atlanta ties, including a car wash business. Federal authorities arrested Meredith on Thursday in D.C. And as 11 Alive's Chanu Hur explains, he's no stranger to some local law enforcement agencies.
The Hiawassee police chief tells me Cleveland Meredith Jr. was known to them because when he moved there from Atlanta, his own family contacted the department because they were concerned about his behavior and his ties to QAnon. This is Cleveland Meredith Jr., who federal authorities arrested on January 7th in connection to the Washington, D.C. riots and is charged with making interstate threats to Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Court documents obtained by CNN state Meredith sent text messages saying he was going to shoot Pelosi on live TV. Tori Anderson, who lived in Hiawassee, Georgia, had her own run-in with Meredith in the summer of 2020 during a Black Lives Matter rally she organized.
He passed by us kind of threateningly with his gun out of the window of the car. And he pulled around back behind the protest in order to get out of his car, right, and kind of lurk behind us.
With her that day was her friend Tatiana Benefield.
And he held his gun up like this, making sure that we saw it, like he wanted us to see it. He was very happy to see us scared.
Both say Hiawassee police officers were there to protect them. Police Chief Paul Smith confirmed Meredith did show up to the June Black Lives Matter rally with an assault rifle, but undercover officers stopped him from getting near the group.
I didn't expect that someone taking such local action would so easily escalate that kind of action to a national level.
Benefield says she still can't wrap her mind around Meredith's arrest.
We were connected because he was with us in our protest. He was a counter-protester. I would have never thought that I would know anyone at all that was there.
Some of the most recognizable faces from Wednesday's riot are now in police custody facing federal charges, including this man dressed in a horned animal skin hat, carrying a 6-foot spear with the American flag. The Justice Department says Jacob Anthony Chansley of Arizona, he's known as Jake and Jelly, turned himself in to Arizona police today. Chansley told the FBI he went to Washington after the president put out a call to patriots. The man spotted smiling while walking away with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's lectern, now also in custody. 36-year-old Adam Johnson of Manatee County, Florida, is charged with theft of government property, amongst other things. Florida news outlets report Johnson is married to a physician and has 5 children. And the man photographed kicking his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk turned himself in to authorities in Arkansas yesterday. 60-year-old Richard Barnett of Arkansas is charged with illegal, violent entry and stealing Pelosi's mail. You see him holding it in the picture right there. He is currently in FBI custody.